So the nice thing about being involved in India is if when you Google Kerry Damskey, you obviously will, a lot of things will come up. They'll come up California winemaker, blah, blah, blah. And, there's a lot on that. But mostly what you see is India. And that segues into my Costa Rica project, which segues into Israel. I've become sort of the go-to. I mean, there's a lot of great consultants, and we're all sort of friends. We're all close to the same age. But I've sort of become the go-to guy for weird-ass places. And Kerry Damskey can make wine from places that no one's ever made wine. So my good friend and partner, Niv Ben Yehuda, not a Costa Rican name, is from Israel. He in his own right is quite famous for what he does and extracts essential oils from citrus, and has businesses in Israel, Costa Rica, and Florida. He married a Costa Rican gal and bought this beautiful property, almost in the mist lens of the mountains of Costa Rica, close to 8,000 feet, 2,500 meters. And he's passionate about wine. So Niv calls me. I'm up at our cabin in the summer, and I get this, phone call from a guy. Says, "You're Kerry Damskey. I'm Niv Ben Yehuda. I want you to make wine for me in Costa Rica in the mountains." So, and of course, what am I going to say? No, I'm not interested. I said, dude, I'd love to help you. And so I said, why don't we meet? So I figured that's going to be like a month or whatever. No, he says, let's meet in 3 days. I said, okay. So Niv and I meet at Coppola Restaurant in Geyserville with his lovely wife, whom I have to, side note, thought it was his daughter. And we talk about, he's passionate about wine, and he talks about his property. And within 2 months, I fly down to Costa Rica to go see his property, and it's amazing. Up at 8,000 feet in Costa Rica, the mountains are steep. It's where coffee grows. It's all hardwood forest. It looks like Sonoma County mountains. There are some caveats. There's no wine grapes at all. There's no grapes at all. The grapes have never been planted in Costa Rica. The caveat are two. Number one, it rains 120 inches a year. So my questions now, whenever I meet anyone, is going, what's the dry period? And how many days do I have between flower and set, and picking? Those are the key questions you have without rain. Well, in Costa Rica, at 120 inches of rain a year, you have a wet period and a not so wet period, but you do have a dry period. And then when you go down, so up at 8,000 feet, 2,500 meters, it looks like Sonoma County mountains. It's beautiful, hardwood forests. If you go down to the Pacific, and we are maybe, as the crow flies, an hour from the Pacific, it looks like Jurassic Park. I mean, dinosaurs. So it's an incredible contrast. Anyhow, so we spent a lot of time doing research, I went to UC Davis, talked to Andy Walker, to Professor Andy Walker. He had a little experience in Costa Rica. We talked about rootstocks. I'm happy and unhappy to say that everything I learned at UC Davis through Dr. Walker was wrong, and we had to we used the wrong rootstocks, and everyone thought it would be at that altitude. It's very volcanic soil. The slopes are like 30%, so it's very mountainous. Drains even though you have 120 inches of rain a year, it drains rapidly because it's all volcanic, mixed rock. So we had to reinvent the wheel, and I hired a good guy named Phil Katori, who is from Sonoma County, a biodynamic farmer, but again, a frontiersman like myself. And we had to reinvent the thoughts of how to grow grapes in a tropical mountainous area. To fast forward, we had to sort of replant. We used the wrong rootstock. Andy Walker thought we should use a devigorating rootstock. In fact, and I knew this from India, and I could use some of my knowledge from India. You need to, in fact, use an invigorating rootstock. The grapes don't go dormant, so they don't have a rest time. And Neve, mostly, my partner, one day we're going to write this incredible white paper about growing grapes in the tropics at high altitude wine growing. And I think, between Neve and myself, we're probably the only ones that can do that. I'm happy to say that we had our first harvest this last April of 2019, and I tasted them. It's now December. I tasted them that had been racked and filtered, and it was really garage winemaking. I went to the local place and bought on Neve's credit card about $12,000 worth of winemaking equipment. The guy had his best day he'd ever had. And we made the wines with the help of Neve's niece, who has a master's in, just graduated in chemical engineering, and my winemaker from Israel, another woman named Donna Benny. And I tasted them, and we're growing early ripening, early maturing varieties that do well. Because it doesn't get warmer than 72 and it doesn't get cooler than 52. So the vines don't go dormant, and they don't quite get super ripe. So the way we made the wines in Costa Rica, and we've only had one vintage, and we're saying we're growing Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Grenache, and Syrah. All those varieties can be grown at a lower maturity, don't need these sky-high bricks. When I got down there in April, it was because of climate change, it had just started raining. I looked at the fruit and I said, let's pick everything now. So we picked everything, and we had to do a lot of sorting. The birds had eaten a lot of it. So we know from next year, bird net everything. We actually created, as they do in Amarone, outside of Verona, Italy, a desiccation house. And so we got the bricks up to about 20, and then we desiccated them, and desiccating meaning slightly elevated temperature with lower humidity. We took the humidity out, and within a week we got the bricks up to like 25. And I tasted these wines a month ago, and I have to tell you, in April when I left, I just thought, poor guy, man, he has just spent $20 million. And the wines were wonderful. And they had wonderful potential. So that's a very exciting next chapter for us in Costa Rica.